Lan Wangji was usually such a cold person, wearing only white clothes, but now he was wearing the clothes with completely different bright red color. His whole person became brighter suddenly. Wei Wuxian had thought that Lan Wangji's cool aura would conflict with the bright color originally, but a good-looking person looked good in whatever he wore. The clothes were made of bright red clouds, and the flowing, auspicious clouds were embroidered with golden threads. It was true that only the gods, who had fallen into the mortal world, were worthy of such a gorgeous dress, which seemed to be woven by the most skillful weaver girl with clouds. Although Lan Wangji was persuaded by Wei Wuxian and only wore a coat, even this was enough to attract attention. When he really dress up and appear in the wedding ceremony that day, what kind of amazing appearance would he look like? Wei Wuxian's throat twitched, and he wanted to praise Lan Wangji desperately. However, he, who was always eloquent, found that even if the best word came to his lips, he still felt that he couldn't say it. For such a person in front of him, all the beautiful words were eclipsed. He opened his mouth in a daze and stared at Lan Wangji without blinking. Everything he wanted to say was written on his face. Lan Wangji looked a little embarrassed. He turned away slightly and whispered, "Wei Ying." Wei Wuxian woke up from a dream, gave a thumbs up and praised, "Looks good. Looks so good. Lan Zhan, you really look good in anything you wear." Lan Wangji was originally the second in the list of young masters in the immortal clans. He had heard of all beautiful words or praises. He could have taken them calmly, but now, tips of his ears turned slightly red. Wei Wuxian said solemnly, "Fortunately, you put it on first today. I as mentally prepared. Otherwise, if I see you directly that day, I will pass out." Lan Wangji had already taken off his clothes and folded them carefully. After hearing this, he paused and said with difficulty, "Stop talking." Wei Wuxian chuckled, and just then he remembered to pick up all the fallen papers. While picking them up, he took them in front of him and looked at them. He asked curiously, "What is this?" "A list," Lan Wangji said. "This is the list of guests present." Although the Lan family held banquets and invited guests when having wedding ceremony too. It was not like some families who invited everyone just for the sake of ostentation. Wei Wuxian nodded and glanced around. He saw that most of them had the surname Lan. Some of them he had never seen before. He guessed that they were probably elders. He asked casually, "Are all the people who are invited here?" Lan Wangji said, "Yes." Wei Wuxian looked at it and suddenly saw a line, "Sector Master Jin. Jin Rulan." He was stunned for a moment and then burst out laughing. Without asking, Lan Wangji knew what he saw. He walked up to him, placed his palm on the top of his head and rubbed it gently. Wei Wuxian took advantage of the situation and rubbed his hand twice. After flipping through all the lists, he stretched the waist and asked again, as if unintentionally, "Will anyone else come?" Lan Wangji shook his head and said, "Not necessarily, but it probably won't happen." Wei Wuxian said, "Huh." Lan Wangji held the folded wedding dress in his arms, preparing to send it back to its place. Before leaving, he bent down beside Wei Wuxian and whispered, "Wei Ying, be obedient on the wedding day." With Lan Wangji watching closely, Wei Wuxian managed to hold back from making trouble for the next few days. Day by day passed, and finally came the day of the wedding ceremony. Wei Wuxian was so excited the night before that he didn't fall asleep. He was originally afraid of affecting Lan Wangji, so he huddled under the quilt and didn't dare to move. But then, he soon discovered that Lan Wangji didn't fall asleep either. The two people who were going to get married the next day looked at each other under the quilt. At that moment, they seemed to have returned to their most youthful days. Lan Wangji looked away quietly, but Wei Wuxian laughed without any shame. Seeing this, Lan Wangji no longer tolerated it and started kissing him. But after all, they had to get up early the next day, and there were a lot of things to do. So Lan Wangji didn't dare to toss him. They hugged each other all night. After it was dawn, finally, Wei Wuxian sat up from the bed. After bathing, washing up, and simply dressing up, Wei Wuxian said energetically, "Lan Zhan, is there anything that I need do?" Lan Wangji rubbed his forehead and said, "Just stay quietly." According to custom, this was indeed how it should be. But for Wei Wuxian to sit quietly in the room with a red hijab, it would be more realistic to knock him out with a palm. So he misinterpreted Lan Wangji's meaning deliberately and said, Okay, I know. You are the master of the outside business and I am the master of the inside business, right? Lan Wangji couldn't stop him at all, but he couldn't really tie him to the bed on the wedding day, so he had to let Wei Wuxian rush out of the silence room quickly and go to the juniors he mentioned. Lan Xizhui and Lan Jingyi were helping register the guests. After Yiling arrived, the three of them took a break and went to the side to talk. When Wei Wuxian came over, he happened to see this scene. Wei Wuxian saw Yiling at a glance. Before he could say hello, the teenager in fine clothes pointed at his nose, scolding him. You. Wei Wuxian chuckled. He slapped him on the back of the head and said, "How can you speak in that way?" Yiling's hat was almost knocked crooked by him. He raised his head angrily, stopped pointing at him, and stamped his feet. "You lost your memory before, right? Why didn't you tell me about such a big thing? Do you look down on me?" Wei Wuxian was stunned, not expecting that the child would mention this matter suddenly. He glanced at Lan Xizhui and Lan Jingyi beside him. One of the two teenagers was pretending to cough, and the other was embarrassed and looked away with his hands behind his back. Seeing him like this, Yiling became even more angry. "Wei Wuxian, you still want to conceal this from me?" Wei Wuxian said, "If I told you, how do you want to help me?" Yiling said, "I." He said "I" for a long time but couldn't speak anymore. The expression on his face changed rapidly, and finally he was depressed faintly. Wei Wuxian felt heart soft. He patted his shoulder and comforted him. "It's just a matter of those few days. It is fine after it's over. Sorry for making you worry. It's eldest uncle's fault. I'll apologize to you, okay?" Yiling nodded subconsciously, but then he realized something was wrong and said with fury, "Who is eldest uncle?" Wei Wuxian said, "The person who is answering me call me eldest uncle?" Yiling was about to get angry and stamped his foot twice more, but then he snorted, looked away, and took an exquisite brocade box out from behind his back awkwardly. He said angrily, "Here, a congratulatory gift for you." Wei Wuxian smiled and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Sect Master Jin, but—" He touched his chin. "Isn't there someone to collect congratulatory gifts specifically? Why, do you give it to me personally?" Yiling said disdainfully, "That one is that one. This one is this one. Don't worry about it. Just keep it." Wei Wuxian said, Okay. He rubbed the child's head again. He stayed in the back hall for a while, half helping and half playing with the juniors. Estimating the time, he returned to the silence room holding the brocade box Yiling gave him. He shook the box in his hand, and there were sounds of metal inside. It must have contained some gold, silver, jewelry, etc. When he opened it again, he saw that it was indeed the case. Wei Wuxian couldn't help but laugh and said, "It was really in line with the Jin family's usual gift-giving style." Just as he was about to close it, Wei Wuxian noticed that there seemed to be something underneath the pile of luxurious jade pearls suddenly. He reached out and took out the thing. It was a folded piece of paper with a few words written on it. Wei Wuxian opened it and saw what was written on it. "Live a good life with your Lan Er." The handwriting was familiar, yet unfamiliar, and he recognized it at a glance. Wei Wuxian's smile just now was frozen at the corner of his mouth. He didn't know whether it should disappear or deepen. He was frozen completely. "Do you know who wrote these words on the paper?"